process, but when I first was starting off, like I would do the due diligence. I'd focus on like 5 different niches, or maybe the same niche in like 5 different cities, either one. And then from there, I would build a website, launch it with just the homepage and the contact page, let that puppy start indexing, and then I'd rinse and repeat that 4 more times. And then
Damian, next up.
So Gene said, can you go back to the daily method of operation? What activities are you focused on in the building phase? Then again, when managing, yes, you use Google Sheets and check rankings, but what else? So like when I was first starting off, like my daily method was first, like, and I've said this like a ton, but like I fell in love with the due diligence process. Like I love that part of the process. It's like my favorite part. I don't outsource that. I like knowing what markets I'm going into, what's low hanging fruit, and then what's not low hanging fruit. Because there's websites I've built out over the last year that I know it's going to take a year and a half to rank, but I know they're going to pay me like 5 figures a month, And so I really like that part of the process. But when I first was starting off, like I would do the due diligence. I'd focus on like 5 different niches, or maybe the same niche in like 5 different cities, either one. And then from there, I would build a website, launch it with just the homepage and the contact page, let that puppy start indexing, and then I'd rinse and repeat that 4 more times. And then after that, I would build out the service pages. And then after that, I would start backlinking. Then once calls started or email forms were coming in or calls would come in, then I'd get my GMBs and do my citations. And then, but while I'm doing that, I'm also prospecting to get fast money through the door. So I was selling websites and doing SEO, and I built my agency up to like 30K at one time doing that, but then it came crashing down because like SEO just sucks because you're just doing it for someone else and they're just using your services. So that was like my daily grind, and I was doing that up until like I was able to hire out and outsource and have a team. And then you start learning how to manage, and then you start learning how to, kind of like what Ippei was mentioning before, like you gotta know what to inspect, out of these VAs, because you're going to have to course correct at times. And so then you learn how to be a good manager, and like managing a team is kind of like quarterbacking, you know what I mean? It's kind of like what Tom Brady did with the Bucks, who were like the worst team, and then he just took them to the Super Bowl, shout out. And then like, it was just crazy what he did. But anyway, so like when you see that, when you're doing that in like your business, you're quarterbacking, you're managing these VAs, you're making sure like all the content's right. Like, I got sites with Seth right now that we're ranking like with just like 12 or 13 pages with like 0 backlinks on page 1, like position 3 on some like not even low hanging fruit. It's like fruit like growing in the ground. It's like corn. Like it's so good. So, but that's because like, sorry, it's because I did the due diligence, and I'm doing that process even right now to this day, 5 years later. Like I'm still doing that. I'm still like going in, doing the due diligence. Right now, I'm not writing the content like I used to, but what I'm doing is like setting it all up, making sure like my content writers are writing it with like the right type of SEO, like what we go into training. Like you have to become a master at this before you start outsourcing. I know me and Ippei did a live like last summer talking about like the top 10 pitfalls most new students make. You guys should watch that video, because one of the things most students like do a mistake on is they outsource too quick because they don't know the process. And when you don't know the process, you're not confident. When you're not confident, you don't know if this works or not. And this works, obviously, but you just have to like put in the time, So I don't know, it just kind of went off, but I don't know if you
got the rails there with Tom Brady.
You don't have to.
Listen, he won the vote. I mean, I was shouting like crazy, dude. That was just dope. He's 43.
Looking for a reason.
Another one.
Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna say, if you think of yourself as like a baker, right? Some days you might be mixing the dough, some days you might be baking, some days you might have to sell the cakes that you bake or what have you. You don't have to overthink it. Like if you just focus on, I like how what Simon says a lot of times is like pushing the ball forward up the field. If you can if you know that you're putting in the time to push the ball forward every day, sometimes you might be backlinking, some days you might be building another website. Just focus on that. Just focus on consistency of like 3 hours every day or 4 hours every day of like working in this business. I promise you over time, incrementally you will go further. And then when you get to a point where you got like a couple clients that's giving you some residual income, some cash flow, then you can think about hiring a content writer. The first person I would hire is a content writer, because that tends to take a lot of time. So I hired a high school kid off of Craigslist. It was my first hire. And now I got this guy, I'm paying him, what I think like $8 per 500 words or $10. I don't like whatever price, like it was around there. You can hire a content writer. You can go buy done for use. I mean, you can just keep outsourcing, but in the beginning, you might just have to put in the groundwork.
Yeah, I'd recommend like simplifying. If you look at this business model, whether you're doing paid or SEO, like is taught in the training, you're either going to need more customers or you're going to need more traffic. Like those are the two things, and they kind of ebb and flow. Like in the business that I came from, it was all, we called them publishers and advertisers. Like I needed to go find somebody that had an email list, or I had to go find more people to like buy up that email inventory. And it was usually at an imbalance. There was usually more of one than the other. And so like my efforts in the days where I'm like, well, shoot, I've got more people willing to give me money than I can spend. So I need to go find more publishers, which in our case is, I need more shoes on the shelf, more lead gens, more traffic coming through, versus like, oh, I've got these lead gens. Now I got to go get customers for it. And it's always going to be in flux. You want to be working at both at the same time, but maybe each day just look and go, okay, where's that balance at right now? And if it's more, hey, I need more traffic, like, what is if I could only do one thing today, what would I do today to try to go get more traffic? And not just for today, but for the long run. And you do that incrementally over time, those efforts will compound.